NCAA decision for Baylor coming down relatively soon. If you're a member of the premium boards, then you know there was some talk about something potentially coming down this week. There was a strong feeling about that possibility. Mac Rosa said like months ago that he was expecting a decision to be made sometime around right now, quite frankly, around the end of the semester, around springtime. Quite frankly, there's like a week, two maybe, that's left in the school calendar. Most schools have wrapped up already, right? Most schools have taken their finals. So I don't know what the delay is here, but saying all this to say that the winds have changed, and now there is not an expectation that there will be a decision by the NCAA this week. Perhaps next week, but we could play that game like we've been playing that game for the last 4 years of, well, maybe it's here, maybe it's here. So I'm of the mind of I'm just going to see it when it happens. But if you have been on, the verge of anticipation or nervousness or whatever over the NCAA and Baylor, it does not appear as though anything's going to happen today or in the next couple of days. Hopefully soon, just so that it'll be done with, just so it'll be over. Everybody's just searching for some closure here, and the NCAA, because of whatever reasons they have just taken their sweet time with this, and they will take some more time. So we continue to wait, but just wanted to let people know that the expectation is now from all sides, people at Baylor and people on our boards, that that's not going to happen this week. So. Yeah, just more waiting. So this is 5 years now, right? That we've technically, I guess 4 years since. When did the NCAA officially open their investigation? I don't recall that date, but from whenever that was, they didn't make like a public announcement about that. I just remember it finally being reported at one point, and I don't know when that was. I'm going to try to find when that exact
I do know that we
was.
voted for two different people for president. Yeah, an election cycle.
Like I said yesterday, there's been entire classes of college graduates who have come to Baylor, to anywhere, as brand new freshmen and have walked away with full-blown degrees, and they were post-scandal when they arrived, and there still hasn't been a decision. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. There is no excuse for it taking this long. I don't care how complicated of a story it is. If it's so complicated that it's taken you 4 and 5 years to decide, then maybe you don't need to be involved in trying to figure it out. Maybe you're not smart enough or capable enough to do this in a fast manner, or a manner that would at least be, somewhat. And I know people aren't really looking for fair in Baylor right now, but like, everybody who was involved, for the most part, is gone. So really all they've done is just strung out a bunch of people who are trying to turn it around. They've strung them along now for 3 years and are continuing to string them along. And then when they finally come in and have whatever punishment they have, whatever that may be, it will all be punishment for a bunch of people who were not even on the team, who weren't coaching, who were maybe at it was 2 schools ago for them at this point. Like, multiple people will have had like a couple of jobs. Matt Rule's come to Baylor and gone to the NFL already in the time period that it's taken for this to occur. So, they received their formal notice of allegations in October of 2018, October 1st of 2018. So that's a little less than 3 years ago, but we know that this has gone back farther than that. This started all the way back in 2016. So you can add at least another year on to just kind of the timeline here. And so, yeah, we're approaching 4 years, if not 5 years, of just the entire saga, and approaching 3 years of this investigation that the NCAA has apparently been, conducting. So I hate to disappoint people, although some people will be like, whew, I can kind of breathe now, because I know a lot of people are nervous about whatever's going to, be the end result. But, it's not expected here in the next couple of days. So just know that.
And look, here, I've said this for a long time. Whatever they come down with, I'm not afraid of. It's not going to matter. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to undo the past. It's not going to change the future. It's not going to derail Baylor football. It's not. It's an annoyance. It's like these damn flies. That's what it is, And
except for they'll be gone long before the NCAA has a decision, and they'll only have bothered us for an entire day. But, I know what you mean, but I'm not going to go that far because, for all of the lack of power they do have some power. And just because North Carolina beat them in a lawsuit or, whoever else has gone toe-to-toe with them has been able to have some success, doesn't mean that everybody has. Some punishments do stick. And so I just want to know, like everybody else, just what it is. Is Art Briles getting a show cause? Is the football team going to have to lose a couple scholarships each year for a certain amount of years? Is a bowl game off the table for next season? That's the kind of stuff. Like, think about this. They're playing in 3 months, and they don't know if they can even go to a bowl game yet. Like, they believe they can right now, but the NCAA might swoop in next week and say, no, wait, no, you're not. And that's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things because you haven't made your travel plans and all of that. But damn, if you have to tell your team 2 months before the season, by the way, guys, all that hype we had during the spring and all that excitement, we can still go win some things, but we can't go to a bowl game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the deal. I get it, but I'll put it like this. Growing up, there was a thing that my dad used to do. It drove me nuts, and I will never do this to my kids if I have any, but it was effective, I guess. But if there was a punishment coming or you knew that you had done something wrong and gotten in trouble for something, he would drag it out to make you have to wallow in it. And I think it became, quite honestly, it was torturous after a while. I don't think it was effective because it was just in my opinion, I think it was just kind of cruel after a while. But there is some effectiveness to no, you did wrong and you're not going to get your punishment right away. You're going to have to sit there in the corner, right? You're sitting in your room and you have to wait and for an hour or something until I come in there and tell you what we're going to do about it. But this has been damn near 4 years now. I mean, again, they're not in the legal business. So what have they been doing for 4 years? I know they got other schools they're worried about and all that jazz, but, I mean, come on now. This was the most high-profile case in college athletics 4 years ago. Everybody was talking about it. LSU has been like a gnat, basically, even though the story that they have out there is far more detailed and has far more connecting dots on the surface than anything that was reported about Baylor, because all Baylor was for the most part speculation. And it was it was the dumbass statement released by Baylor about the 52, cases. And Baylor did most of its damage early on to itself. And the people responsible for that, I don't know if they'll ever come to, go to task for that, but they should. And they should feel awful for how they handled that initially. But since then, once some new people came in that actually had an idea of what they were doing, they were able to settle some things down, Livingstone and Rhodes, etc. And so now those folks who came in to save the day and clean up the things that needed to be cleaned up or changed or whatever, they've been here for 3 years. 3 years, dude. So where is this damn decision? It's aggravating. And so going back to that little story, it's kind of like what the NCAA is doing. It's like they're just dragging it out and making it wait. And I don't think they're doing it intentionally, unlike my father. But it's just that's the hard part, is that waiting game. It's just really hard.
Look, I'll just rewind. Oklahoma State basketball played in the postseason this year under appeal, and they're probably going to win that appeal. If you also compare what's going on at Baylor to what happened at Penn State, courts ruled that the NCAA had no jurisdiction over what actually happened at Penn State because the NCAA doesn't legislate that. That was a criminal thing, which has been adjudicated in the courts, and Jerry Sandusky is going to die in prison. And all of those things that happen. And so Baylor, again, you're talking about, if you're talking about extra benefits and all that, the other thing the NCAA does have to come to grips with, Craig, as you mentioned, the president is gone, the athletic director is gone, the coach is gone. They were gone within 3 days of the report being released. They lost their entire signing class, essentially for 2 years.
Yeah, basically.
They had to rebuild. They had one that was already coming in, and then they had one with one guy who's still here, Jalen Petrie.
Yeah.
That's it. So all that stuff's been done. So if what's the and again, if you're
I'll tell you
the
what
other thing
could be
about
done,
okay,
dude.
and then you mentioned a show cost for Art Briles. Well, I think that's pretty much unfortunately for Art, he's not going to get to coach in college again.
Right.
Probably.
No.
So the show cost for him is also kind of like vacating wins. What does it mean?
I mean, I'm not worried about our brows, but to your point about, like, what does it matter? Okay, Paul, well, I'll tell you what matters. If the NCAA comes out because they're unpredictable, like, that's the thing, is that there's not a set guideline here. There's not like, if you do this, you lose this. It's literally whatever they want to do. That's all it is. It's whatever they come up with, and it's unique to every single case, although there's some similarities. So for all we know, and this is the nerve-wracking part, it's not that you're afraid of the death penalty. It's the fact that you don't know what the hell they might do. So you can say, like, I'm not worried about them. What are they going to do to us? We're going to take a couple scholarships? Okay, what if they take 5? What if no, they can't do that. Why not? Why not? They can do whatever they want, remember? So if they decide, like, we're going to make an example of Baylor, because who do they make examples of? They make examples of the schools that aren't going to, fight them back and that don't have the power to. So if they come out and they just say, you know what, we need to set an example, 5 scholarships each for the next 2 years. That would be crippling, dude. That would be crippling. So I see what you're saying, but it's the NCAA and it's unpredictable. And so until I see what that final result is, I'm going to be a little bit nervous about it, just for the sake of the program, because they could, I mean, they're not going to, knock on wood, death penalty Baylor or anything, but they could make something happen to where, it hurts, and it hurts in a major way.
I guess the reason I'm not worried is because, again, this will go to court if the Baylor doesn't, feel like it's something they can that's fair. And I don't know what punishment you could give him at this point, which would be fair.
No, that's the whole thing.
What's fair at this point? That, had you done it in 2017, it'd probably been fair. I mean, like, look, it's right after. There's still guys on the team that. That would suffer. Like, there's still coaches on the staff. I mean, it's all that. But
like, the only person I think still around from then, the people would actually even know, is like Jared Atkinson. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Like, he's been around for 7 years. He's the only one that I think is still around. There might be like maybe 1 or 2 other players, maybe, that were around for even the Grobe year. But outside of Jared Atkinson, I can't think of anybody. He's literally the only player on 85 scholarships that I can think of that was even here. And so, I mean, I'm not trying to be dramatic, and I'm not like, oh, my God, I'm so scared. I'm not that. It's just that I am, and not even nervous. It's more I don't like the feeling of the uncertainty that surrounds the NCAA and their decision-making process. But, yes, all the worst stuff happened like 4 years ago when they lost half their class and all that jazz.
And I think like I said, it'll be haggled at in court, and the legal precedents are all there that, all these schools have, essentially gotten off or reduced. And
yeah, well, we've seen Baylor's lawyers make a couple missteps here and there, so I'm not exactly 100% confident.
If they just base it on the precedent that's there, I think that they'll be fine. So, it doesn't.
And they might not need to. Like, that's the thing, is we're running in circles about what could happen. And that goes back to why it's been driving people mad for 3 years, is because that's all we've been doing is like, oh, God, what can they possibly do? What could they possibly do? What if they do this? Oh, man, that'd be terrible. No, what if they do that? Oh, man, And so we've driven ourselves insane thinking about what could happen. And we just want to see what is going to happen, and that's the frustration. It's just having to wait so long for this to finally come to fruition or finally be finalized, and we're waiting even longer. So hopefully, maybe as soon as next week, something's got to pop here pretty soon. Is all I know.
I would hope. I mean, I feel like I've been saying there's no one left from that era here for 2 years. I feel like I've been saying that for 2 years.
Yeah, well, like I said, Jared Atkinson's the only one that I can think of. I'd have to look at the roster. He's the only one I can think of who would have 6 years of eligibility. And there was a couple maybe last year that were still a part of that group, but they're gone now. So, it's pretty much only him. But, they lost the scholarships without the NCAA having to even strip them of that, because all their players left. Just all the fallout that took place. That in itself was a pretty big punishment to have to take. But we'll see. We will see at some point. Definitely not making a prediction on when that's going to be. But Mack Rhodes thought as of like 6 months ago it was going to happen around right now.
Yeah.
And then the guys on the board got word like, hey, there's momentum towards something happening this week. So, obviously that's not the case, or it appears that's not the case. But that does tell me signs are pointing to like very, very soon there has to be something that's announced.
Yeah, and then it'll be over with.
And then it'll be over with.
Unless there's an appeal.
Unless there's an appeal, then that'll be fun court. And then by that point, like, most people won't even care anymore. I mean, I don't know how many people are still keeping up with all like the various legal cases that are going on. Some people are, but some people are just like, okay, that's over with now, or that doesn't have as profound an impact maybe as it seemed like 2 years ago. So, yeah, I mean, the court case would be interesting. Hopefully they don't have to go that route. Hopefully it's just a punishment where they say, cool, let's go, let's face it, let's be done with it, rather than have to drag it out further. But that all depends on what it is and whether they feel it's fair or not. And I don't, that's the other thing. I don't even know what's fair or not, quite frankly, because I don't even know what all, you know what I mean? Like, we're not even privy to everything that they know.
We don't even know what they're really looking into.
Exactly.
Like, we have kind of an idea of...
A very loose idea.
Of what they'd be looking into, like impermissible benefits or something like that. And I think some of the impermissible benefits might come from Art Briles setting players up with an attorney, not necessarily paying for it, but like opening the door for that. I don't know, but...
Or, there's like the suspension, and then Oakman, still playing. Were you playing? That was something that I saw somebody bring up of were you playing players that technically should have been playing, kind of a deal. Yeah. That's not unless you were doing it on a great scale, that's not a huge punishment coming your way.
Or they had that really weird Sean Oakman 1-game suspension.
The SMU game.
Yeah,
that was a makeup suspension is what that was. That was them trying to cover their ass after the fact because they knew he had gotten into something. And obviously that's all that whole thing's played out in court now already.
But see, the thing that he got into that played out in court was after he was already done. So the SMU game was something else that we didn't even know about.
Yeah. And that was where some of that just kind of like what weird stuff's going on, and that whole kind of period of just what exactly is going on here. But yeah, that was a very odd, out of nowhere suspension. And so I don't know. Like we kind of have a loose idea really of what is even on the table. And even then we don't know a lot of the details. So again, we wait. We wait.
Yeah. The NCAA is good at one thing, being slow.
Yeah, they take their time. They definitely take. I don't know how it compares to like Miami back in the day, or Ohio State, or Oklahoma in the 80s, or all these other cases that have had some type of notoriety. I don't know how the timeline compares to that. So this may be like how it normally is, and maybe it just feels longer because there's more of a vested interest in it, and that's probably some of it. But I don't know. It also does feel like it shouldn't take 4 years for you to figure this out.
I think one of the reasons it's taken 4 years is this. When it happened, a lot of people came out all high and mighty about it. And, oh, my God, how could this happen? It wouldn't happen here. And then a bunch of players were like, shh. It's happening everywhere. It's happening all over the place. So to maybe make this one, to your point, Craig, to make one of these stick. Because what's happened at Michigan State, which is egregious over a 25-year period. What's going to happen? Look, Ohio State's got a really bizarre one with their wrestling team and a congressman of all people involved. Like, what's going to happen there? But if Baylor can be made an example of, that does the one thing that worries me, because they did it with Perry Jones. Perry Jones had a nothing. Like, he went to a Cowboys game with his AAU coach, a preseason game in San Diego, and they called that an extra benefit. But nobody at Baylor set it up.
So you brought up Michigan State. How long their investigation took for Larry Nassar?
How long?
8 months. 8 months.
Well, because the federal government did it for him.
Well, yeah. And that's what my fear was with Baylor, is they were going to wait for all of these lawsuits to drag out. And like, if you do that, I mean, especially with the last year.
It could be 10 years.
Oh, it could be 10 years from now. And what are you punishing kids who weren't even born when it happened, which they would have no problem with because they do stuff like that all the time. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. That was partially, or in a major way, cleared up by what was going on in the actual courtrooms. But, yeah, that was an 8-month ordeal. 8-month ordeal. Michigan State had notice of allegations in January of 2018. By the end of August, they were done. They already knew what was going on. They could move on. It's been 2.5 years since Michigan State basically wrapped up.